What's up, people? We're going to install FreePBX 16 on Debian 11. And the reason why we're installing on Debian 11 rather than 12 is because for the FreePBX GUI, we need to run PHP 7.4. And to get 7.4 on Debian 12 is not easy, and I'm not going to go through all that. It's just a hell of a lot easier just to install the right version of Debian, just to make it a quick and clean installation. Because we already need to modify the PHP, but it's easier to do on Debian 11 than 12. So let's get into it. Let's start up a server, and then we're going to take that IP address and we're going to add it to the VoIP Innovations endpoint group. So hopefully you know how to use VoIP Innovations, because that's what we're going to be using for our SIP trunk provider. Okay, so let's grab the password from the password we use in all the companion documents, which is in the description if you need or want to go step by step and cut and paste these commands. So we're going to type in a nice host name, which is D11 FreePBX. In this case, I don't modify the DNS for any domain because by default and generally, you don't want to do a multi-tenant or a multi-domain install. It's just a single install for FreePBX. It's not like FreeSwitch, where you can install multi-tenants and multiple segregated or segmented installations. This is a one tenant, one customer kind of thing, or one user group, and that's how we treat it. We don't do anything tricky. We just use it as it's intended to be used. So now that we have the IP address, I'm going to copy that into the back office here. I already have the endpoint group situated. So I'm just going to add this IP address to this endpoint group, and it's going to make a request to add this. And then I'm going to elevate this a little bit to supersede the IP address I already had. So this new IP address will be the priority. And you can see here that I already have this group name, and it's a standard rate. And this is the important part. The port, I made it 5060 because that's what Asterisk wants pretty much on their, by default, on their SIP trunks. And I strip the plus and I strip the country code. And that's all we need to do in VoIP Innovations back office. So now that we have that, we're going to continue with our companion document. We're going to connect to the server. Let's make sure I have the password. So I'm going to connect to the server. It's going to be root. I need that password. I need that IP address. There it is. So 64.2323647. And we're going to accept the fingerprint yes, and then paste in the password. Now we're going to continue with the installation. Now, as I said before, there's a companion document. You can copy and paste these commands step by step to make it really easy to install this and follow along. You're going to be prompted if you want to update the package manager. So in my case, I want it to be updated. So I click yes, or I click the first line rather than the default line, which is keep local version. And I hit OK or enter. And then we're going to grab the next line, which is to install all these packages or all these apps, which are dependents for installing the rest. Copy and then paste all that in from the companion document. It says some dependencies and some apps that I like running on the server, because one of the apps we're going to run right after this is install this Tmux, so I can I can run a persistent session. So if I get disconnected from the server at any time, the session's going to continually run. Okay, so let's grab the next line before we run this Tmux session, just so we're ready to paste it in. So type in Tmux, and then I'm going to hit Control-B, C, Control-B, and then C to add a couple tabs, and then we're going to paste this in, that line, which is wget and that long URL. Okay, then we're going to go into tar to unpack this, and I'll just type this in myself. You can cut and paste if you like, or copy and paste if you like, and then we're going to cd into the Asterisk directory. And now we're going to run this script in the Asterisk directory. Oh no, it's not a script, it's just a command to install in the Asterisk directory. It's going to ask us to choose a country code. Now for you, it's going to be a little bit different. I'm in the US, so I'm going to type 1. And of course, yours is going to be different compared to where you are and what your primary use case is for this server. And mine is 1 in this case. You type in your country code. If you don't know it, look it up. But you need to have it because this is going to be relevant to the dial plan that we add later. All right, the next command we're going to do is the configure command. So let's run that script there. And this make menu select has changed a little bit since my last video, so just follow the instructions or follow my lead here. Okay, so under here we go. Under add-ons, we're going to modify this one and this one. So we just highlight it, hit enter, it'll drop down, hit enter again, and then we want to go use the arrow keys, left arrow key to Applications, and we want to scroll all the way down to Deprecated section. Okay, here we go. And we want to add in the app macro. Then we want to tab to save and exit and hit enter. And now that we've done that, we want to run this next command, which is make and install. So this takes a while. I'm going to pause the video and I'll come back when it's finished. Okay, now that that's finished, let's go to the next line, which is make prog docs. And that'll take about 10 minutes. So I'll come back when that's finished. All right, let's go with the next make samples. And let's see, I don't think this one takes very long at all. And then make config. And then ld config. Now we're going to add the asterisk group. And sometimes it's better just to copy and paste these in because you do not want to mistake or make a mistake on these lines. So I will copy and paste myself. Okay, now we're going to edit these configuration files and the group that we just created. So let's go down. We can search for this. We can just do /AST. And with most things, I'm going to copy and paste. So it's YY to copy, P to paste, YYP. And you have to do this when you're out of edit mode. So now that we've created copies of those lines we're going to edit, I'm going to type I, go into edit mode and take away the hash to remove the comment. The hash indicates a comment line. And then we're going to escape and then hold shift and type ZZ, which is exit and save, or save and exit. Then we're going to go into this other configuration file. Let's see, confident. We're going to enable the run user, so we can do a /run. Okay, there we go. So I'm not going to copy and paste these. I'm going to break my rule a little bit. You can if you like, but it's just those two lines. Escape out and then hold shift ZZ to save and exit. And now we're going to system control, restart asterisk, enable asterisk. So it starts with the server. All right, and then we're going to check the status. And it should show active running there. And then we can control C to close that out. And then we can check the version here. So we're running 18, so I should probably change this document to 18. And then we can exit out or quit to continue our setup. Now, in this case, because we use Debian, we don't have a firewall setup. If we were to use Ubuntu, that usually comes with a firewall pre-installed. Debian, for my needs, I like a stripped-down version of the operating system most of the time. In some cases, I'll use Ubuntu or some other OS. But in this case, we don't have a firewall installed. You can install it if you like, but I prefer to configure the firewall on the network settings for DigitalOcean. So the firewall is not contained in the server. It's outside the server, and that's my preference. I'm not going to go through how to configure the firewall. The settings for the firewall can be shown on other configurations for FreeSwitch. And now we're just going to continue on the installation. So we're going to install the Maria database. And so copy and paste that. And we're going to start the database now with the system control. And then we're going to enable it. So it starts with the server. Okay, so now we need to run or secure the SQL server by running this command to MySQL secure installation. And we'll say when you enter this certain password, I'm just going to create or make sure that the password is something I know. So I'm going to copy from the companion doc the password we've been using the whole time. We want to switch. We do not want to switch this. But then we want to say yes to everything else because we want to change it. We want to change the root password. No, we don't want to change the root password. We want to remove anonymous, yes. And disallow remotely logging in, yes. Take away the test database and reload everything. So let's continue with the installation by copying and pasting this next command to install curl and some other dependencies for the web interface. All right, moving right along, let me remind myself where we left off, and let's copy and paste the next line. And just keep it copying and pasting. Just make it easy on yourself to follow right along by using the companion document to copy and paste. It removes a lot of the chances of error by mistyping things. And especially when you're watching me do this, it really helps if I just cut down on the errors that I make and just go right down the list so you get to see the results. In the cases I do cause errors or have errors that I need to fix, sometimes I show them. And then we're going to update the entire. We're going to remove the default HTML page. And now we're going to remove the default PHP files, and we're going to install the PHP 7.4. Because this is required to run the front end, which is what makes the FreePBX functional. You know, it's just Asterisk without the FreePBX. So to run the FreePBX, we need the PHP 7.4. Okay, choose no configuration here. Choose no configuration here, but we do not want to configure anything on this part. All right, the next line is going to create a file. So we're going to use this line here, and then we're going to paste in all these things below it, including MySQL in brackets. We hit enter, and then we're going to do the exact same thing to create one more file. Everything from the bracketed MySQL all the way to the EOF, which is end of file. Okay, and then we're going to do cd into this directory. System control, stop asterisk while we're installing FreePBX. And let's start it again, and then we should be able to log in. Okay, let's attach it to the database here with the existing password that we made sure was the server password, the same as the server password. Okay, we're just going to run these commands here to disable some of these packages, or not disable them, but modify them. So this to disable the commercial ones so we don't have errors based on commercial packages that require money and us to pay to continue to use the server. Or at least those packages. We don't need the extra errors, basically, is what I'm saying. So after that, we're just going to keep running a few more commands, then we'll be able to log into the web interface. All right, the next thing we're going to do is delete the firewall. As I said before, I like using, and I think the firewall, the built-in firewall is only available with the commercial version anyway. And as I said before, I like using the DigitalOcean firewall in the network settings in DigitalOcean. All right, now that we're finished with that, let's go to step 2. It's the first login, and update the server from the GUI. In this case, I'm going to grab the IP address, copy it, and go into a private window. And you want to do this as pretty much as fast as possible because this is the first login and it's totally insecure. So you have to log in and create credentials to secure your server. I'm just going to use this password that I use for all the installations. It's the server password I use in the companion doc or from the companion doc admin email that I use for a lot. We'll say we want to check for updates on the Saturday between 8 and 12 while we're watching Saturday morning cartoons, and we'll system update. We'll go right into the FreePBX manager here, or admin, and we want to go to admin and then updates. Where is it? I think module updates, and then click on check online. And after it checks, it should, let's see, what do we do next? What do the notes read? And it'll show you all the options here. And let's just click upgrade all. Let's leave it like that. We want to make sure, let me go back to the dashboard. Where's the dashboard? Yeah, there's no swap file, that's okay. We can modify that later. But the next thing we're going to do is create extensions. Now creating extensions will basically allow you to use the server right away without, it doesn't give you the capability of calling phone numbers, but if you had friends and family or you had people you wanted to internally communicate with and just assign them extensions, you could build all this out just for internal use. And so just as a test, we're going to go to add new PJSIP, which is the fourth option here. And all we need to do is, then we can go, so we want to just, the user extension should be some numeric value. The display name, I believe, can be any text string. Doesn't have to be numeric. And then the secret, of course, is the password for the phone or the soft phone. And then we want to go to voicemail. If we want to use voicemail, switch that to yes, create a voicemail password, and then email address if you want voicemail to email, which I recommend, and then just click submit. Then let's do another one for testing. So we have something to call. We're going to make it 402. You don't need to use 402. Most people use like something like 1000 or 1001. And we're going to voicemail, flip it on if you want to use it. In this case, I'm not going to use it for that extension. Submit. And then we go to the next thing, which is create trunks. This is how we enable the ability to call in and out. So this is inbound trunks. So you're creating kind of an authentication for allowing calls and for calling out as well in the next section. Let me go through this. So we have connectivity. Oh no, we want trunks. So let me move this around a little bit. So we're going to go to the first option, which is SIP, which is Chan PJSIP. The trunk name doesn't matter. Oh, I guess it does matter a little bit because it doesn't want spaces. So let's just, because I'm using VoIP Innovations, I'm going to use VI for that, and we're going to call it inbound. Outbound caller ID, you don't need. Let's take this server address, click on the PJSIP tab, and go to server. And the port is needed to be 5060, which is what you saw when I first configured the IP address in the back office under VoIP Innovations for the endpoint group. So I match that with whatever the endpoint group says. Usually it's going to be 5060, 5080, something like that. In my case, it's 5060. And then let's see, we make sure that is 5060, yes. The endpoint group is also 5060. Submit that inbound trunk. We're going to create an outbound trunk now. So let's jump down. Let's make sure I did everything I needed to, yes. So let's go back. to trunks. Let's go into the, so I need to match. No, I must have something mixed around here. So if you just follow the notes, as I did not do originally, you'll have everything you need. But we just need to match permit, which is the kind of like we're authenticating, we're authorizing all these IP addresses, all traffic from these IP addresses. And what we want to do is also turn off authentication. Where is that? So we want to go none here for authentication or registration. And then we go to advanced and then go to the match permit and make sure that I have all that right. So match permits there. Okay, but where are the no? Okay, so this is the place I was missing because I did not highlight this. I probably should highlight this a little bit. Make sure we don't forget that in the future. Submit that, and now we can go to the outbound. So let's click same thing, add SIP, PJ-SIP, type in something similar, which is outbound. All right, in this case, we're going to type in a different password, or just copy and paste it. We want to make sure there is, let's see, we're going to go right away to this PJ-SIP tab, settings, change this so there's no authentication or registration. The SIP server is that server address here, which is 64.136.174.30. No server port in this case. We can create redundant outbound trunks, but this is pretty much it for a single outbound trunk. And let's modify this a bit so we can create redundant. I'll create one redundant outbound trunk. So we do outbound trunk. Let's submit that. And then we're going to create another one. In this case, we're going to type in secondary, and we're going to use another IP address. In this case, we want to go to the PJ-SIP settings tab and flip authentication and registration to none. And we're going to grab this other IP address, which is a secondary redundant or for redundancy. And then we're going to submit that. And we're basically authenticating based on the IP address, not on username and passwords, just to be clear. And here's the third, if we wanted to create a third rollover or redundant outbound route. In this case, I'm just going to go to step 5, which is creating outbound routes here. And these outbound routes are basically dial plans. So we have the primary trunks, which are authenticating with the VoIP Innovations servers. And now we want to create more custom individual routes that are going to be based on a dial plan. So let's create this dial plan here. We're going to add this to any name we want. We're going to call this the E911 route outbound. And we're going to disregard the route CID or caller ID. We're going to go to the bottom here and we're going to choose the outbound trunk, primary for the first one. And if we only configured one, then we obviously only have one. But since we configured 2, we're going to set the redundant outbound trunk. And then we're going to go, where are we going? We're going to the dial patterns. And in this case, we have append is or prepend is all blank. The prefix is 1 in some cases, but we're going to match what I have, or just match my keystrokes here. So we want to create 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We can delete them later if we added too many. So the prefix could be 1 and 911. The prefix could be 9 and 911. The prefix could be 91 and 911. And that's that. So once we have one left over, we can just delete it and then submit that. And now we're going to create another outbound route to dial longer digits that are not 911. So the route name is going to be outbound calls. All right, no caller ID here. Set the same thing we did before, which is the outbound primary and outbound secondary. And we're going to go to dial patterns. There's much more here because we're dialing 7, 10, and 11 digits. And let me just add some space so I can work on this. I'm going to copy this because pretty much all of them have, let's see, prefix all blank. So we're just matching these patterns. Oops, I want to add 9 or 800. And then we have, 8. Another 800 number here, another version of an 800 number. We're toll free 44, and then just pasting these in to make it a little bit quicker. Right, now that we've added all these dial patterns, we're going to submit that. And now we're going to build out the rest of the system, or some things that are useful in the system that most people would like to use. I added a URL here just to give you a couple audio files. I think there's one for sure. There might be another file in there to help with the configuration when we deal with Fusion PBX. But I do have a generic recording that you can use to add to the IVR. So let's go into the IVR, which we go to admin, system recordings to add the recording that we're going to use in the IVR. So add the recording. I have a recording on the desktop. Okay. The description is general greeting. We're going to browse, grab the, and that, like I said, if you follow that URL, there's a cloud share that you can grab this generic URL, this generic recording. It's an MP3 file. All right. So as we've done that, then we can just, let's see what else we might want to do. There's really nothing else to do. Just submit it. Then we want to go to the IVR, which is under applications. Add IVR. IVR name is going to be general. IVR greeting. Description can be whatever you want it to be. And we're just going to find our recording. And then we're going to submit that. Let me make sure. The announcement, let's see. We got the announcement, yes. We're going to enable dial direct. This basically means that the caller can dial the extension directly. So they can start dialing the 3-digit or 4-digit extension number and get connected directly to that particular extension. So I always like that. I always like giving people the option to dial the extension directly rather than waiting for the long prompts and long recordings. Then we want to enable it. So let's see, we already enabled that. So we click submit. And now we're going to get into creating inbound routes. And this allows you or anybody else to call you from a public telephone number, which you can register with VoIP Innovations. So we want to go to connectivity, and then we're going to get an inbound route. This is going to be an inbound route for the default or primary, we'll call it the primary phone number. I'm going to pause this right now because I need to make sure that my primary phone number is assigned in the VoIP Innovations back office. So I'll be right back after I get everything situated with that DID that I want to configure for this demo. All right, so let's go into this configuration where I've verified that this DID is ready to go, and I'm just going to type in a description, which is inbound DID, and the number is, let's see what the number is, 855, I don't think that's the number. Okay, it is the number, 3777, and the caller ID, any, doesn't matter. This is basically a call routing feature, which you're not going to use most of the time. So from any number, and then we're going to go to, we want to choose a destination. So all we're going to do is we're going to go to more, yes, and choose destination. I need to write this down a little bit more clearly. Okay, so we're going to set the DID number, set a description, and then the last thing we're going to have to do is set the destination, which is either going to be the IVR, which is the automated menu prompt, or it's going to be an extension. So you should have the options here. Let's make sure this is exactly what I expect. So the extensions will show extensions. We have the 2 extensions, or we can go to the IVR, which should show one IVR, which is a general IVR greeting, which we set up previously. So you can pick and choose. I'm going to, just for demonstration purposes, I'm going to make it go to an extension 401. I'm going to click submit. And then after we've configured everything, we're going to click, finally, we're going to click this apply config big red button that applies everything that we've just done. And it's going to make it active. So after we've done that, we're going to be able to demonstrate all those functions, at least in theory, right? Until we actually test it out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into my main Tech and Spades number, make some phone calls to this DID we've just set up. So the DID is 855-543-3777. But we have to also configure. So let me start recording on my phone, and I will share this recording over this video so you can see exactly what I'm doing. So let me set that to record, and let's go into this configuration. So I already have an existing test configuration. I just need to change the IP address. I might want to check the password as well. So let me change the password to what I know we just set for that extension 401. And let's change that IP address to the existing server that we just set up. Okay, so now that we've done that, I can enable it. It should register right away. It did. And I'll just let it sit there on that screen. And I'm going to call that phone number from my main Tech and Spades phone number. So I'm calling that number. Let's see if it rings through. Great, that's not good. So what happens now? The number I've reached is not in service. So what do I do? Okay, I got the number wrong. This is why you got to be very precise. So I got the number wrong. So it's 554. Once we set the number correctly, then we'll actually have better results. But it's also a lesson to everybody that one little number, space, symbol will throw the whole thing off. So let me go back into recording, and we have a registered phone. I'm going to make that phone call again to the right number this time and see if it rings through onto our soft phone, our Bria soft phone. There we go. So here it is. It's calling, and we want to leave a test message if we like. I don't know what that speaker's connected to or what that phone's connected to, but I'm leaving myself a voice message. And let's hang up. Okay, so let's try that again. This time I hope the recording doesn't get stopped. Let me try this. Turn off Bluetooth because it was interfering. Let's go to the accounts real quick. Let's just leave it like that. And let's just call again. Yeah, it keeps stopping the recording. So let's go back to the recording. And so it's going to go into the voicemail because I'm not going to answer this call.
The person at extension
and that's the default greeting for 401.
is unavailable. Please leave your message
And I'll just hang up again.
Done, hang up.
All right, so that proves that we're able to call in, which is probably one of the most difficult things to configure, unfortunately. And if I call back out, let's make sure I can make that call to return that call to Tech and Spades. And it's ringing fine through on the Tech and Spades phone number. But it's coming through the incoming call as 401. So what we need to do is set the caller ID. I'll show you where to do that. So we set the outbound route. It's not there. It should be in the trunks. Set the outbound trunk to the caller ID that you want. So you don't do any fraudulent misrepresentation of who the hell you are and who you're calling from, or where you're calling from, or what number you're calling from. You add the outbound caller ID to the outbound trunk. And you would do that for the primary, secondary, and tertiary phone number. So let me just add that, apply it, and then we'll test it. Okay, I only configured 2 outbound trunks, so I'm only going to configure them for the caller ID. And it's taking its sweet time to reload. And let's call Tech and Spades again. We're going another way. Let's do it from the phone, the soft phone, and it's ringing through on the correct caller ID this time. So as soon as you apply the caller ID, as soon as you make the outbound trunk, which is the primary, secondary trunk, you have to assign the caller ID in order for it to be represented as the number that they can call you back on. The true number that you've registered with VoIP Innovations so they can call you back. And now that we've configured that is absolutely everything you need to do to configure a complete FreePBX phone system.